This is about Lake Lanier, 6 to 7 years ago. I went, my friend invited me. I didn't know these people, but I went anyway. It was good vibes, right? It was like one of those days where it's like too perfect, like scary perfect. Like everything was just flowing. We on yachts, we drinking Hennessy, like we cheersing. It gets so good, people start jumping in the water, y'all. This when things go for a turn.
Hello everyone, my name is Lisa and here's what I have today. And this is a frozen meal edition. So I have a Banquet Mega Bowls Mike's Hot Honey Chicken Mac and Cheese. So new from Banquet. I have this to eat today as my spicy food. So there you go. Take a look. Okay, ooh. And it says it is a mega sweet heat made with Mike's Hot Honey, 100% white meat chicken. And then to go along with it, I have some Takis brought to you by Doritos. Chili lime Dorito Takis. Okay, never had those before. And then for the cooling / recovery portion, I have my good old trusty Upstate Farm strawberry milk. And then also, nice retro from days gone by dessert of a cherry pie. Here we go. Go get a spicy snack and let's get into the spooky videos. And today's topic is Lake Lanier. So here we go.
Have y'all ever heard of Oscarville, Georgia? Well, what if I told you that Oscarville, Georgia is the most haunted location in all of America? Well, in the early 1900s, Oscarville was a thriving black town, very similar to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Well, just like Tulsa, there were some people from the other persuasion who didn't necessarily like that there were so many black folks doing so good. Oscarville, unfortunately, was located in one of the most infamous counties in all of Georgia. And if you black from Georgia, you know exactly what I mean when I say you stay the hell out of Forsyth County. In 1912, Oscarville suffered from a series of racially motivated riots. So residents were threatened to either sell their land or die. Now, the history books will tell you that the people of Oscarville were bought out of their land and they left fairly. That's a fucking lie, bro. It wiped out the entire town, destroyed it. So I know you may be asking, well, what happened to Oscarville? Where did it go? It's still there. It's just buried underneath a 38,000-acre man-made lake called Lake Lanier, aka the real Camp Crystal Lake. First of all, since 1994 alone, there have been 200 people who have died at Lake Lanier. Most of them drowned. I think that's crazy that that's not even scratching the surface. Because ever since the lake was open, there have been a total of 700 deaths, bruh. For some strange reason, people still keep going there. I don't know why. It's funny because as somebody from Georgia, we used to always say somebody should make a horror movie about Lake Lanier because clearly that shit's haunted. Just when you thought it would never happen, here comes Lanier, an independent film telling the real truth about Oscarville, Georgia and what happened there. See, in the movie, a detective heads to the lake for a family getaway until he gets a call about a mysterious drowning. As he's learned about the history of the lake, he's real skeptical. He ain't really believing it. What's done in the dark always come to the light, and he eventually found out the truth. This movie is definitely important to the culture of Georgia, and it's important to the history of black people in this country. Y'all know Black Wall Street in Tulsa was bad. That was a terrible thing that happened. But at least people know about it. Oscarville, Georgia, no one knows. The history was buried, just like the city was, underneath a damn lake. Ask any of your friends from Georgia, they'll tell you, we don't fuck around with Lake Lanier, bro. Next time somebody brings up this lake, just remember who told you the real history about it.
Lanier is a man-made lake in northern Georgia that is also supposedly really, really haunted. I just did a video on Lake Tahoe, and you guys were like, look into Lake Lanier. And so I did, and the history is really, really horrible and really, really sad. So in 1956, the Army Corps of Engineers decided they wanted to build this lake, but in doing so, they had to flood entire towns, including Oscarville, which was once a thriving and predominantly black community. And in flooding the lake, they also flooded a ton of businesses and churches and cemeteries. And supposedly they moved the graves, but some investigative reporting proved that there were hundreds of graves that were never removed. So now when people swim in the lake, they are literally swimming over unmarked, unrested graves. And since the lake's creation, it has claimed over 700 lives. The number rises every year, and it's not just drowning. Like, people have reported boats capsizing for no reason, people being pulled underwater in calm water, and cars driving over bridges veering off into the water for apparently no reason. Many people have reported feeling their ankles grabbed and being dragged underwater, and then when they look, there's nobody there. Locals swear that the lake is haunted by those who were displaced in their resting place and those who never got out, but the most infamous is the lady in the lake, who is a woman in a blue dress who walks the bridge close to the waterway. In 1958, 2 women crashed off Lanier Bridge, and one woman was discovered months later, and the other woman wasn't found until 31 years later, when a construction worker discovered her remains still wearing a blue dress. Before and after her discovery, dozens of people have reported seeing this woman walking either on the water or on the bridge. But it's not just her. Like, people say this lake is cursed from a million different people. In 2012, a construction crew literally quit after their equipment kept failing, and one of the construction crew members saw a man's face under the water calling for help in perfect English before disappearing under the water, and there was no one there. Like, the construction crew quit. Under the water, there are entire buildings. It is a sunken ghost town. One diver who explored deep sections of the lake described it as City of the Dead. From everything I've read about it, Lake Lanier was never meant to be a lake, and it does not want to be disturbed.
I tried to stitch this lady video, but TikTok didn't let me, but I'm going to still tell my story, okay? This is about Lake Lanier. 6 to 7 years ago. My friend invited me. I didn't know these people, but I went anyway. It was good vibes, right? It was like one of those days where it's like too perfect, like scary perfect. Like everything was just flowing. We on yachts, we drinking Hennessy, like we cheersing. It gets so good, people start jumping in the water, y'all. This when things go for a turn. So it's like 4 people in there. Everybody gets out except for this one girl. She's swimming or whatever.
I hate all of this.
And she starts to struggle and look at us, and we're like, oh my gosh,
I hate all of this.
Like, somebody help her. So this one guy, he's pretty lit, but he's like, nah, I know how to swim real good, blah, 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 blah. All right? So he jumps in. So we're thinking, okay, he's gonna save her. And he does, okay? He does save her. She gets back on the boat. But he didn't get back on the boat. And I'm like, what's going on? I kid you not. There's a button down there at Lake Lanier. Like a little button that they push. It must be cameras. Because, baby, when I say people drown at a certain time, and that water was just swirling so hard, more than ever. And it was that one little area. Something's going on down there. So he's swimming. We throw him a donut. We like, come on, get back, get back. He's missing the donut because the water's so hard. It's swirling literally like a tornado. Do you know this man did not come back up from the water? We call the police immediately. They come an hour and a half later. Are you crazy? That boy is way gone under the water. I don't know where that water took him, but he never came back up. His baby moms was there. His sister was there. That man was loved, and I never told that story because I always felt like it felt like a dream, and it felt like unreal. And I couldn't believe that I was there to see a man to watch someone go underwater and not come up. It's life-changing. I'm sorry, but I always felt differently about water ever since then. And I never told that story. I don't even know if I told my family that story because I think I did, but I didn't go into depth of how it made me feel. That shit right there, you gotta stay away from Lake Lanier. Like, for real. It's not for us. It's a setup.
The years at Lake Lanier. The ex-wife of R&B singer Usher, Tamika Foster, lost her son here a few years back, and the whole situation is just so tragic. To the point where she even made a petition, and she's had over 3,000 signatures. I'm sure there's more now. But in hopes of draining, cleaning, and restoring this lake. And in hopes of when the massive lake is completely drained, officials can safely remove hazardous materials. To improve safety measures at this lake, and to ensure the well-beings of all individuals. And that's because in 2012, almost 12 years ago, she lost her 11-year-old son due to a freak jet ski accident. Now, at the time, the 11-year-old boy, Kyle Glover, was floating on an inner tube when a jet ski driven by a family friend crashed into him. And he was declared brain dead and spent weeks in the hospital due to his injuries. And sadly, he later passed. Now, this whole case is so sad because just think, you're just, on the lake with your family and your friends and you're just trying to have a good time, and then this freak accident just happened.
Next story.
You know when you're watching something and you're like, please don't let this actually be based off of real events, and then you find out it is, and you just let out the biggest sigh ever.
That's how
Well,
I'm
that
feeling
happened
right
to me
now.
today when I decided to give The
Ugh.
Lake by Alter a quick watch. The movie starts out by saying in the late 40s, a community was flooded in Georgia to create this Lake Sidney Lanier. I assumed that this was fake history for the movie, like The Blair Witch, and just kept watching. A couple goes out on this boat in the middle of the night. He professes his love to her, and you know he's totally going to propose. He drops the ring in the water by accident, and into the lake he goes to search for it. And that's when things get real spooky. Now, I'm not going to say any more because you should go watch it. But I did a quick Google search after the movie, and it's all based on facts. So buckle up. Let's get into it. Essentially, in the late 40s into the early 50s, the government convinced around 700 families to sell them 56,000 acres of land for them to build a dam and flood it, creating this lake. And in the process of doing this, this lake covered beautiful farmlands, greenery, buildings, and graves. Yeah, see where I'm going with this? The marked graves in the cemeteries were taken care of, relocated, no problem. But what about the unmarked ones? Because missing an unmarked grave is pretty easy to do. But this was also the early 50s, making it even easier to do. There are also buildings at the bottom of this lake. People claim to hear church bells under the water, which that's been debunked, but... And then this quote really got me right here. In 2017, a longtime diver claimed he sometimes felt body parts. I'm sorry?
What?
You reach out into the dark and you feel an arm or a leg and it doesn't move.
Ugh.
And I didn't even mention the 203 people that have passed in this lake since 1994.
This is either a Final Destination type situation or this man was sent back as somebody else, and I'm gonna need his friends and family to confirm that this is actually still him. So this is Lake Lanier in Georgia, one of the most deadliest lakes. Just in the last 20 years, 200 people have passed away, some in very mysterious circumstances. The actual history of Lake Lanier itself is disgusting, and I have a whole deep dive into that. So on Monday, Zachary went swimming with his friends, and at one point his friends could no longer find him. So they go and report him missing to the police. The police start a massive search. I mean, they even had helicopters out trying to find Zachary alive. The following morning on Tuesday, Zachary flags down this deputy, and that is when he finds out that the helicopters and everyone were searching for him. He said that he had swam to this little island, and by the time he came back to meet up with his friends were gone. He didn't have a cell phone, so he just stayed the night. And I guess he did hear the helicopter and things that were going on, but he had no idea that they were looking for him. And so after he spoke to police, he became one of the few stories I have ever heard of someone going missing while swimming in Lake Lanier and actually being found alive. I can only imagine how happy the local police, especially his friends and family, were not to have to find a body in the lake. And to you, Zachary, it is a good time to play a lottery ticket.
This is the most controversial and the most haunted lake in America. This is Lake Lanier in Georgia. The deadly history of Lake Lanier has a lot to do with why there are sinister forces at hand. From accidents, murders, and grudges, those tragedies has left a dark energy that lingers inside of that lake to this day. Lake Lanier is a man-made lake. It was created in the 50s by flooding the valley communities. But before it was inundated, meaning before it was buried in water, it was a lively land with plants and trees and animals running around. It was also the town of Oscarville, a community where people lived their lives. Then came some engineers from the army. They wanted to create a lake to provide Atlanta and other cities power and water. So they offered the residents money in exchange for their land. And the residents agreed. They took them up on their offer. So over 700 families sold a total of 56,000 acres to the government. The government then built a dam on the Chattahoochee River to form the lake. The construction of Lake Lanier required the displacement of thousands of people who lived in the area. Because remember, they had to flood the whole town of Oscarville. with water. Families would later resent their decision for selling their land, later realizing that they actually couldn't survive on the money that the government gave. But it was too late. The town was flooded, buried with water. A lot of things were also flooded, including cemeteries. Unmarked graves were inadvertently left behind. Not only that, but the town was not entirely demolished before the lake was filled. So that means that the ruins still rest at the bottom of the lake. So does that mean when you're swimming in Lake Lanier that you're possibly swimming above a cemetery or with possibly bodies floating around? Yes. Scuba divers even witnessed and reported finding streets, walls, and even homes underwater. Since the lake was created, hundreds of people have drowned. There were also reports of boats going up in flames, strange accidents, missing persons, and other tragedies. People say that the town's dark history has a lot to do with these sinister incidents. Folklore explains that the spirits of the graves that were flooded and the people that were persecuted in the town were seeking vengeance. For example, a tragic incident that happened on September 10, 1912. An 18-year-old woman named May Crow was violated and murdered near a bridge on the Chattahoochee riverbanks. Her murder was allegedly acted out by 4 males, Oscar and Trucy Daniel, Ernest Knox, and Big Rob. A day later, a mob invaded one of the young male's jail cell. They shot him and dragged him through the streets. Then they hung him outside in public. There were many controversies behind this case because it involved different races, which people concluded as racism. Another controversy was that the 4 males were innocent and that they were only pinned with the murder because of the color of their skin. But for some, it was widely known that the men were innocent. But what really happened? We may never know. Another story that people take into consideration is that of 2 teenage girls, Susie Roberts and Delia Young, in 1958. They were at a party in town and then they decided to leave. When they were on their way home, they had to pass through a bridge where they somehow lost control of the vehicle and spiraled off the edge and crashed into the dark waters. It wouldn't be until 1 year later when a fisherman discovered a decomposed body floating near the bridge. However, it wasn't until 1990 when divers discovered a 50s Ford sedan at the bottom of the lake with Susie Roberts' body inside. Then they put 2 and 2 together and realized that the other unidentified body was that of Delia Mae Young. Locals would go on to say that you can still see Delia's spirit roaming around the waters and walking on the bridge. If these stories aren't enough to keep you from this lake, it's also probably important to note that there are alligators swimming around, 28 bodies that have yet to be discovered, and over hundreds of deaths in the lake. And also remember that the lake was not meant for recreational use. It was meant to supply water from the Chattahoochee River to the surrounding towns in Georgia. Yet Lake Lanier is still a very popular vacation destination. Would you go visit?
Okay, next story.
Did you know Lake Lanier in Georgia hides one of the creepiest ghost stories in America? The Lady of the Lake. In 1958, 2 friends, Delia Parker Young and Susie Roberts, were driving across the bridge late at night after a night out. Witnesses later said they were speeding when their car broke through the guardrail and plunged straight into the dark waters of Lanier. Their bodies and the car vanished. For an entire year, nothing surfaced. Then fishermen found a badly decomposed body floating near the bridge. The corpse was strange. It was missing both hands and toes, and the remains were dressed in a blue party dress. Locals assumed it was Delia. The other woman, Susie, was still gone. But in 1990, more than 30 years later, divers discovered a sunken car deep in the lake, still with a skeleton inside. The ID confirmed it was Susie Roberts, which meant the headless ghost found years earlier really had been Delia. Ever since, people have reported seeing a ghostly woman in a tattered blue dress walking across the bridge at night, or drifting just beneath the water's surface. Some drivers say she appears in front of their car, forcing them to swerve, only for her to vanish. Boaters claim something icy cold grabs their ankles, pulling them toward the depths. And late at night, people swear they hear phantom church bells ringing from the drowned towns resting beneath the lake. Lake Lanier wasn't built on empty land. It was built on flooded communities, graveyards, and entire cemeteries. Some believe Delia's restless spirit is just one of many trapped in the watery grave. Would you dare drive across that bridge at midnight knowing she might be waiting? Did you know Lake Lanier?
Alright, next story.
In the United States, people drowning in Lake Lanier often say the same thing. Something grabbed them first. Lake Lanier wasn't always a lake. Entire towns were flooded to create it. Homes, roads, cemeteries. The lake looks peaceful until you get in. Survivors say it starts with pressure. Hands around the ankles, around the wrists. They try to swim up and can't. Some victims say the hands don't pull, they hold. Search teams blame roots, wires, and panic. But locals know where the towns used to be. And they say if you feel hands in Lake Lanier, don't fight them. You're already standing on someone else's home.
This is the creepiest thing ever.
Lake Lanier in Georgia is known as one of the deadliest lakes in America. Over 700 lives lost since it was created. It was built over towns and cemeteries, flooding entire communities in the 1950s. Divers have reported eerie encounters, roads, buildings, and even tombstones lurking beneath the surface. Many believe the lake is cursed, claiming it doesn't just take lives, it keeps them. If you dare to visit, remember, the lake holds more than just water.
Lake Lanier may look like a peaceful getaway, but what if I told you that beneath its surface lies a disturbing history and some of the creepiest legends you'll ever hear? Stay with me, because this story will make you think twice before visiting this lake, or any lake, again. Lake Lanier, nestled in the foothills of Georgia, looks like any other peaceful lake. A perfect spot for fishing, boating, and family getaways. But beneath its calm surface lurks a dark history and a sinister reputation. This isn't just any lake. It's considered one of the most haunted bodies of water in America. In the 1950s, when the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers flooded the land to create Lake Lanier, entire towns were sacrificed. Cemeteries, homes, bridges, and even parts of a racetrack now rest at the lake's bottom, completely submerged. Locals believe that disturbing these graves and displacing entire communities left a curse on the waters. And since then, Lake Lanier has been plagued with an unsettling string of tragedies. More than 700 people have lost their lives in mysterious accidents here. Boats capsize for no apparent reason. Experienced swimmers vanish without a trace.
Creepy.
And bodies sometimes don't resurface for weeks, or are never found. Those who do survive claim to feel invisible forces pulling them underwater, as though something is trying to drag them down to join the forgotten souls beneath the lake. One of the most chilling tales is the legend of the Lady of the Lake. In 1958, two women, Delia Parker Young and Susie Roberts, drove off a bridge and into the murky depths. For decades, their car remained hidden beneath the water, and while Susie Roberts was never recovered, Delia's body was found months later, her hands missing. Since then, countless visitors to the lake have reported sightings of a ghostly woman dressed in blue, wandering the shore at night with no hands, her face twisted in anguish. She's said to appear suddenly, only to vanish just as quickly into the mist. And it's not just ghost stories. Boaters have crashed into what they thought were floating objects, only to find nothing there. Divers report eerie sensations of being watched or touched by unseen hands, and a sense of overwhelming dread. It's almost as if the lake itself wants you to know it's hiding something. Visitors continue to flock to Lake Lanier, lured by its beauty and unaware of its grim past. But locals know better. They know that the waters are more than just dark and deep. They're haunted. So, if you ever find yourself at Lake Lanier, take a moment to remember what's lurking beneath you. Because not everyone who goes into the water comes back. Would you dare to swim? Whether you believe in curses or not, the stories of Lake Lanier are enough to give anyone chills. Some say it's just accidents. Others aren't so sure. One thing's for sure. There's something about this lake that people can't explain. What do you think? Let me know if you'd ever risk a visit.
This is a story of how Lake Lanier almost took us out. Do you guys know the history behind Lake Lanier? What used to be Oscarville back in the day. Well, people think that that lake is cursed because of all the things that happened in that city. I'm not gonna go into that right now because it is a long story. People have said that when they're inside the water, they feel like there is something grabbing them or pulling them down. So I don't really believe that the lake is cursed. I don't believe that. And we go to Lake Lanier all the time. And I know that people think that it's cursed and you shouldn't go there, but we have never experienced anything bad, right? Until a couple days ago. So we have a pontoon boat and we always go to Lake Lanier. So it was like another day on the lake life. So we took some family members out on the boat. It was like 4 or 5 kids, including my son, and maybe like 6 adults. And that day, the lake, I mean, the waves were really strong, like really strong. So we're just, floating around, and the waves are getting really, really crazy, but we didn't think anything of it, obviously. But I think okay. So one of the waves hit really, really hard, and the water just started gushing into our boat, right? That made our boat go like that, all right? We have a little table in the back of the boat. So all the kids, they were literally lifted like this. They were on the back of the boat, and some of the adults were in the front of the boat. So I was in the front of the boat with my son, and the water, it just started gushing in, making, the boat kind of sink, It got us all wet. Like, the water was coming up to here. Awful. And it started to go back, so we were like, okay, we're fine, right? But Awful. It happened again. And the boat, again, it went, it was like really, really steep, okay? I got really, really scared. All our stuff was almost falling out of the boat because the water started to go in. Luckily, I got up fast because I had my son with me. I got up fast and trying to move out of the way, and we started to try and get back to the back of the boat so that the weight, it would balance out. And luckily, that's where it ended. It didn't happen again, but it really did scare me, you guys. I was I really thought that the boat was gonna sink. I really did. Everybody was really scared. Like, the kids were screaming and everything. The good thing though was that, we have life jackets on the boat, so that's not a problem. There's a lot of life jackets on the boat. We have to have them, right?
So I hear we're telling our weird stories about Lake Lanier. Okay, cool. So hey, I'm an Atlanta native. Grew up about 30 minutes from Lake Lanier, and this scar is from Lake Lanier. So when I was 4 years old, I got on a jet ski, was playing around on the back of it, and my dad and his friend decided to crank the jet ski, and it scared me. And so I grabbed the handlebar and I grabbed the throttle. Unknowingly, I was trying to grab the handlebar because I was really scared. And so I grabbed it like this, and instead I grabbed the throttle and held it all the way down, and I was all of like 40 pounds at the most. I was probably like 30-ish because I was very small. I was in a cove. I went straight towards a rock quarry, so this big rock embankment. And as I was going, and the wind was, I still remember it like it was yesterday. Yeah, I can see it. So as the wind was going, I, blowing my hair, I looked to my left, and there was this beautiful woman with long, the longest, past, probably to her waist, long hair, and she was wearing this blue teal, like, kind of crocheted, like, knit dress, like, tank top dress, and she was sitting kind of, like, either kneeling or Indian style. Anyways, she was, like, sitting on her knees almost, like this, in the air, like that. Yeah, that's accurate. And she was like, hey, this may hurt a little bit, but everything's going to be okay. And I, like, was like, what might hurt? And right when I turned my head back straight, I hit the rock quarry. I flew up and I hit one of 3 trees that were about this big around, where they had cut off a limb and went into my head. The witnesses said that after I hit the tree, this is my little 4-year-old body. I hit the tree. I was suspended in the air like this, face down. I hit the water. I was pulled out of the water, and obviously I lived because I'm in my 30s now. But there was a few things about that day that were super fucking weird.
Gosh.
One, I saw either a ghost or an angel or whatever you want to call it, but totally makes me believe in God and the universe and everything like that.
Hey, cool kids, I realize that as a Georgia black girl, I am neglecting a very important duty of mine. I'm supposed to tell you, don't you ever go to Lake Lanier. Why, Sonny? Because it used to be an all-black town named Oscarville, and then they drove all the black people out and built a lake on top of it, and now it's haunted. Yeah. Haunted. Like, people be dying. 500 people done died in that lake since it's been built. It's the deadliest lake in the United States. Oscarville, Georgia was a thriving black community. It was in Forsyth County. And if Forsyth County sounds familiar to you, they were on Oprah one time for never having black residents that lived there. But they absolutely did have black residents. They lived in Oscarville. And over a period of time, white folks took night rides where they would go and lynch people and burn down entire parts of the neighborhood. They snatched up members of families as they were trying to leave because certain families owned land and they wanted to make sure that no family members were able to come back for it. And then a dam was built to create Lake Lanier. Remnants of Oscarville are at the bottom of certain parts of that lake. Houses, headstones, the whole nine. Every year we warn people. And every year, y'all don't listen, people be dying. And not like drowning, like freak accidents. Like, oh, his chair on his boat came unscrewed and he fell in the water and died. Some people who survived Lake Lanier have even said they could feel something pulling them under the water. So I know that the true crime people and the ghost hunter peoples don't really talk about black hauntings, and it is officially spooky season. But don't push it. Don't you go to Lake Lanier. Don't let your little lake friends get you caught up. Lake Lanier is haunted because it was built on top of a black neighborhood. Do not go. You're welcome.
Thank you for joining me today. Take care of yourselves. See you next time. Bye.